professor in the School of Environmental Studies at the University of Victoria. Now, I join you from my home office today in Victoria. I'm looking out the window and seeing some pretty high winds. I'm not sure if you're getting that on Galiano or not. Probably you are. My consolation in being here and not on Galiano is fast internet. But of course, I wish we could all be together in the rustic and memory-making classroom building at the Millard Learning Center. That's where we've been in the past for these events, and we will again. I'm calling in from the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking Songhees, Esquimalt, and WSÁNEĆ peoples. Many of you, most of you, I'm not sure. I know that there's some people from Portland, from Ontario, and other places, probably Vancouver and parts of Vancouver Island. But most of you are joining from what is now Galiano Island, the shared, asserted, and unceded traditional territory of the Penelakut, Lamulcha, and Huitzum, and other Hulkaminum speaking peoples, and the ceded territory of the Tsawwassen First Nation and any others who hold rights and responsibilities in and around what is now Galiano Island and the Southern Gulf Islands. I thank Levi Wilson for his inspiration in creating this acknowledgement. And it's such a privilege for me to help care for these lands and waters. Now, this event, this appreciation event, is a recent tradition of honoring and appreciating everyone who contribute to making the Galiano Conservancy Association the remarkable organization that it is. Protecting lands and waters and restoring them, finding innovative ways to grow and provision food, explore the latest in renewable energy, and sharing all of this in creative ways through learning programs requires great staff, volunteer hours, community goodwill, and financial support. And we want to honor all of these today. Today is brought to you by the Development Committee, a small group of volunteers formed in 2014, primarily to provide financial stability to the Conservancy, including covering the debt from the purchase of District Lot 57, or what we now know as the Millard Learning Center. We work closely with the board of the GCA and have helped launch programs such as the Giving Circle and Plan Giving programs, and continue to pay close attention to bringing capacity for land acquisition and support of new and existing programs. It's my pleasure to serve as the chair of the Development Committee, and I'm joined by Pearl Roberts, John Gill, and Lauren Wilkinson, as well as two staff members, the Executive Director, Chesley Miltner, whom you'll hear from later today, and Jennifer Stackhouse, who's the Development Coordinator, and you will hear from her shortly. Now, this has been a year of extraordinary tests. We've experienced sadness and loss and disruption. During the summer of 2020, when practically every celebratory vestige of Galiano summer was pulled apart, the GCA managed to thread the needle and create a memorable musical walk-along. Some of you may have been there. And on that nearly perfect summer afternoon in August, standing on the bluffs near the north end of the Millard Learning Center's Coast Trail, I experienced the full strength of the GCA. With strains of live music in the distance, the sound of wind and waves, these outdoor places have become so important to us. And this is one of the great lessons of the pandemic. We appreciate opportunities to be outside and in inspiring places, and to know that these are being stewarded in support of community resilience. Now, this afternoon, we aim to bring you a bit of joy. So that's the last, I think we're going to really dwell on COVID. Yeah, the purpose of today is really to celebrate and appreciate and to have a bit of fun. So you'll hear about some of the remarkable Conservancy activities over the last year from Restoration Coordinator Adam Huggins. And we have a few, well, we have a surprise, at least one, maybe a few for you too, when Adam introduces Sedana Bourne. We figured that food has all helped us through these COVID times. And so what better way than a participatory cooking moment? More on that later. To move things along in this digital medium we've all become grudgingly used to, I will, I'm going to shortly turn it over, but please feel free to reach out to me or to anyone else on the development committee or on the staff if you have ideas or you want to help. We're grateful for whatever you can do. I'm now going to turn it over to staff member and development coordinator, Jennifer Stackhouse.
Thank you so much, Eric. That was really lovely. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see some faces that I've actually some of you I haven't met yet. So, and I look forward to seeing you more in the future, hopefully really soon. So part of today, of our thank you to you is we want to offer some gifts. So we have a few gifts. Anyone who's participating today their names will be put into a draw, and we'll be contacting you if your name is picked. We have some lovely GCA t-shirts. We have some wonderful forest garden tea and some beautiful mugs. We have some native plants to give away for gardening season, which is coming up really soon. And Josh, who is going to be participating or leading us in our cooking demonstration, has also graciously volunteered or offered a oxide box, which we all love so much here on the island. So that will be a wonderful prize to receive for one of you as well. Just before I pass it on, because we're going to keep this moving, I have a couple of questions for you all. So Louise is going to put up a couple polls for us. The first one being, we want to know if you're hearing enough from us. Do you hear about what projects we're working on and the results of our projects? So Louise is going to pop up that poll and you can just answer accordingly. We want to know if you, our second poll, which will come up right after that, is going to be, how do you prefer to hear from us? Because we have many ways that we advertise our projects, and we want to know what's working best out there for you. So the first poll is, are you hearing enough from us? And Louisa, if you could just pop that up when you have a second there. Oh, it's up, yay. So yes, I can't see it, but hopefully all of you can.
Need to share the screen or something.
Can everyone see the poll?
No,
Oh,
I've completed it.
oh, great. First little technical difficulty. We were expecting, of course, a few, but
So
Yeah, I got mine. It worked.
okay.
Yeah.
great.
I got mine and I submitted it. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. And Louise, I can't see the poll, but you're more than welcome to jump on and let us know what the results are.
Yeah, I'll share the results now.
That's what these three.
And maybe just while we're waiting for that, one of the things I also wanted to say is, you know, during this past year, it's been such a privilege to come in and work in this office with the great people. It's a really happy place to work. And with all of the difficult times, I just am so grateful to everyone here at the GCA, the board, the staff, and of course, all of you who support us in helping us maintain this wonderful, positive place on Galiano. It's a real honor and privilege to come in here and have some laughs and do some great things for the community.
So I'm just launching the second poll now.
Okay, great.
So how do you prefer to hear about the work we are doing?
Thanks, Louisa. It's wonderful. So if you could all just take a minute and you can hit multiple answers here. You don't have to just pick one.
So I'll just give 10 more seconds before closing it.
Thanks, Louisa. Louisa is our technical guru here today. We're all very grateful. She's running the show behind the scenes here.
So the results should be sharing on your screen now, so you can take a look. And now I'll stop sharing them.
Okay, thank you so much, Louisa. So our next speaker, Adam Huggins. When my first time at the Galiano Conservancy was the AGM a couple of years ago, and Adam spoke, and I tell him this all the time. He's probably tired of me saying it, but he was so inspiring that day. I was really captivated by him giving a synopsis of all the things that they were working on and all the things he was passionate about. So I'm really happy that he was able to join us today. And he's now going to share with you what we're all going to be working on in the next year. So over to you, Adam. Thanks, everyone. I hope to see you all soon.
Hello, everyone. As Jen said, my name is Adam. I am the restoration coordinator here. I've met most of you, I believe, but for those of you who I haven't met, it is lovely to see you virtually. And yeah, I came here in 2016 originally as a summer student and as part of one of Eric's classes. And as sort of a testament to how much the Conservancy's changed even in that amount of time, I think Dana and I have probably been here the longest as staff out of anyone at this point, which is kind of wild. And so and that also, I think, suggests that, the level of community support that we have from all of you, in the sense that there's a lot of continuity with this organization, even though a lot of us as staff are relatively new. We're building on something really beautiful. And so I want to share with you in under 15 minutes everything that I think is worth sharing about what we're doing right now and what we're going to be doing in the coming year. Many of you have been involved as supporters or as volunteers. Try to squeeze it in right now. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen as well. There we go. All right. Can everybody see this? Excellent. This is Crystal Cove from the air. Yeah, these are some aerial photos that we took earlier this year for in preparation for some restoration work that we're going to do. It's a nice perspective on the place, I think, that we're all very familiar with. I'm going to start with education, which is an arena that I am not quite as involved in because the little people scare me a little bit. So I'm we have a very strong education team, and I'm very glad that they handle passing on all of the wonderful things that we do to the youth in ways that inspire them and that inspire me as well. As you probably have guessed, education has been a little unusual over the past year, and that we've been unable to offer the kinds of programming that we've been able to in the past because of the pandemic. And at some point during that time, and I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, all of these puppets started showing up in the in the office, and suddenly there were videos. I don't know. I'm sure that many of you have seen our holiday puppet videos. There are now sing-alongs. I'm calling it Fergus Mania because Fergus the Fungus is the host and the ringleader of our growing cadre of puppet stars. I think the education team is, of course, still going to be doing some in-person programs this coming year, especially for island youth. So there will be local programs that we're going to be offering. So definitely look out for those. And they're also branching into virtual learning. And so that's something, again, that we'll make some announcements more in the coming year. But in the meantime, a lot of you have watched these wonderful videos of Fergus and his friends and the puppets teaching and communicating about the work that we do. There's about to be a whole lot more of them. And so if you are interested in seeing those, you should subscribe to our newly redesigned YouTube channel. I have to say, like, I don't know exactly how this happened, but these puppets crack me up. I cannot stop laughing. And they do a really good job of communicating the ideas behind the work that we're doing in a way that I think is accessible to young people, but also very entertaining to people who are getting on in years, or like myself, we're practitioners. So yeah, I would encourage you to check out what the education program is doing virtually while we are unable to offer those in-person programs. And hopefully with the coming year will come changes that will allow us to again have people out in the woods getting their hands dirty. All right, moving on from education. We do a lot of work with trying to develop sustainable food systems at the Millard Learning Center specifically. Many of you have visited or taken part in this. This is Sylvia and Carlene. These are two of our summer students from this past year. And that big net behind them is a protected area where the birds can't get in to eat all of our berries and fruits from our trees. And we found this year that even just netting areas like this hugely increased the yields of the crops in these areas. So it's been a bumper year for the food forest. We've harvested more food this year than we ever harvested in previous years. And there was a lot of demand for it. I mean, we can't produce enough to satisfy the demand for local restaurants and for food for Conservancy staff and for the general community at the Saturday markets. So we are establishing more and more and more food growing areas. Here you can see some oyas that we planted this last year. These are clay pots that allow us to do passive irrigation. Basically, you bury them in the ground and you fill them with water, and then the water seeps out slowly through the pot and waters the plants around it. So one of the many things that we're experimenting with in terms of conserving water in our growing areas. The other image here is the flowers of an akebia vine, which still hasn't produced fruit yet, but the fact that it's flowering is very promising. This is actually a subtropical fruit plant. And so just trying to represent, we're experimenting with a lot of different edible species. And now that we're, in the fourth and fifth year of the food forest, it's really coming into its own in terms of production. So that's super exciting. In addition, we've started composting as well to feed the soil. And we've established what we're calling a compost hotspot, which is a learning space for composting. So if any of you live on the island and want to up your composting game, you can come visit and drop in during our Thursday volunteer hours as soon as we're able to do the volunteering again, of course. Trying to get our styrofoam composting program up and running again, but still working on that. The mealworms aren't cooperating currently. But in any case, come visit the compost hotspot when it's possible again. The Nutsamot Forage Forest, as many of you know, is a collaborative ecocultural restoration project with elders from the Penellicut First Nation, the Charlies, and the Sylvesters. It again is coming into its third and then fourth. I guess this would be the fourth year this year. And so the food crops are actually really starting to produce, and that's Sedena, our agriculture coordinator, who you'll see in a minute, with the roots of springbank clover, which was once a common cultivated crop by Coast Salish people here on the coast and has now become quite rare, but is growing beautifully in the forage forest. One of literally tens of different species of edible and useful plant. And now if you go to visit the Nutsamot Forage Forest at the Millard Learning Center, you will find a brochure there that was produced by one of our summer students, Sylvia Hawks, that actually introduces you to each of those species and their uses. And it's just beautifully done and illustrated. So yeah, the Nutsamot Forage Forest and our food forests continue to grow and produce food. And it's incredibly exciting, even what's happened in the last few years. I'm very much looking forward to what will happen in the next few. Forest garden tea, many of you have had it. It's delicious, and Sedena has been continually improving and also multiplying new blends of tea. And I think this year, again, it's sold beautifully. There's still some left. So you should, if you want some forest garden tea, you'd better get it before we go into our kind of dry period between spring and summer when we can start harvesting again. And let's see. Oh, also, it's about time to start planting things again. And we've created a new nursery area behind the program center or the office at the Millard Learning Center entrance. And so it's really easy to get plants from us now. You can just come and show up during, I guess, business hours, 9 to 4. And there will be somebody at the office who can assist you in selecting plants. We have, of course, a huge selection of native plants, but also moving into edible plants from the food forest, because there's been huge demand, especially during COVID times, for people planting food. And so we're trying to propagate as much of a diversity of food crops as we possibly can to sell at the nursery with a focus on perennials. But many of the native plants that we sell are also useful for food. And we have interpretive signs down there now for each plant that you can read about them and learn more about how they are used or what benefits they have. And so I encourage you to come visit the nursery annex. You can also just go online to our website and find the nursery inventory and look and see what's available. On the right side there, I have a couple images of plants that are actually very, very challenging to propagate that I'm excited about that we're doing. Up at the very top is a manzanita, which is a plant that only establishes after fire. And so at the bottom right there, you can actually see us pouring hot coals onto soil trays with the seeds in them. This is how we get these plants to germinate, is by literally scalding them. And in the middle there is a juniper. And so we're working on species that are difficult to propagate, but very important for conservation purposes. So some exciting stuff happening in the nursery. Another thing, there's lots going on in the food area. For those of you who haven't attended one of our Feed the People workshops, we did our second annual Feed the People workshop this year. And again, our friends, the Charlies from Penellicut Island, and Stephen Sylvester as well, and his son this year, Ramsey Sylvester, came to hunt deer at the Millard Learning Center, and then taught a group of people how to respectfully and sustainably process it over the course of a couple days. This is a completely unique workshop. There really isn't anything like it that takes place anywhere else in the region. And so I hope that we'll be able to offer it again this coming year. And if you're interested in kind of getting deeper with what it really means to harvest your own meat from the land, and to learn more about the impacts of deer on the island and how they might be addressed in a way that is also addresses food security and indigenous sovereignty. This is a really, really unique workshop. Okay, moving on from food systems. In terms of infrastructure, there's always stuff going on behind the scenes. And so what you can expect in the next little while is that we will have a new website. Chezi and one of our new hires, Emily Potts, who you might have recognized as an education person from several years back as well, are working really hard to put out a really beautiful new website. Our current website, as you have probably noticed, has a wealth of information on it, and it's not always easy to figure out how to find it. And so we're working really hard to make sure that all of the work that we do, especially the demonstration and education work, can be easily accessed by anybody, anywhere, and understood. And so I'm really excited about the work that's being done there. In addition, we've broken ground on a backcountry campsite, so a secondary campsite at the Millard Learning Center to handle extra education groups that come, so we can have multiple groups on site at the same time. There's a university student group and an elementary school group, or visiting researchers. So that's something that hopefully we'll be completing in the next year. And also the Tranquility Bluff Trail, which is a trail that is basically going to link from the kiosk up at the Learning Center entrance by the office. Bless you.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
all the way down to the farthest point, the northwest point of the Millard Learning Center, where there's a beautiful bluff overlooking the ocean. And it connects through multiple ecosystems. So it will have interpretive signage, and it will be a trail that is open year round to the public, regardless of whether there are education programs in session. So trail building, website building, campsite building, all the good stuff. In addition, of course, we do work on marine conservation and monitoring. And so this year, I think we'll be moving into the, I think it's going to be the third eelgrass and the second year of kelp monitoring. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, with in collaboration with the Main Island Conservancy, where we send volunteers, and maybe you were one of those volunteers, out to monitor our populations of kelp and eelgrass as they change around the islands and to get a sense for how they're changing. In addition, we have had cetacean and rockfish programs. And so in terms of cetaceans, our whale and porpoise friends, we've been raising awareness with a variety of different social media and sticker campaigns. And we also are going to be putting signs up all around at viewing areas and docks around the island to raise awareness about the issues that these creatures face. And rockfish, we've been monitoring for many years with the University of Victoria, and we're going to be continuing that in the coming year. So there's definitely ways to get involved in the marine conservation side of our work if you're interested. And then this is the thing that I know the most about is restoration. This is our crew from this last year, pulling broom at the Learning Center Bluffs. We spent a lot of time hanging off of ropes and removing broom from these difficult to reach locations that are nevertheless very important for native wildflowers and pollinators, especially in karaoke ecosystems. And so in addition to the invasive species removal, some things that we've been working on, if any of you have been down to our classroom recently, you'll probably have noticed it looks a little bit different from before. In the upper right, you can see the traffic loop as it was about 6 months ago, and as it had been for several years before. We brought some very savvy machine operator and professionals in, and also a group of SFU students and local volunteers to turn this area into a wetland. And so on the bottom right, you'll see the finished wetland as it was, I think, about 2 months ago, just filling up with water. In the next months, we expect it to vegetate and kind of grow in and feel a little bit less like a crater in the ground. But it is successfully holding water, and we're currently monitoring for red-legged frog establishment in the wetland. And so the hope is that in the next year or two, the red-legged frogs discover it and start using this new piece of natural infrastructure in an area that was otherwise basically a parking lot. So this is a pretty neat project. While we had the machine on site, we went up into some of the areas that have been clear cut and compacted pretty badly. And we did some rough and loose treatment and some replanting in those areas. This is kind of a prelude to what's going to be a much larger project restoring the entirety of the Crystal Creek watershed at the Learning Center. You're familiar with Crystal Cove, probably. Crystal Creek is the creek that drains into the cove over that cliff. And the watershed is contained entirely within the Millard Learning Center boundaries. And so we basically have the ability to restore the whole thing from top to bottom, which is a very, very unique thing for any conservation organization to be able to do, to have an entire watershed to kind of demonstrate headwaters to ocean conservation and restoration. And so we've been starting in some of these areas that aren't quite so visible to kind of get the hang of things and to see how that affects areas lower down in the watershed. This is, again, I think an SFU group that was very excited to be planting plants and not be in virtual classes. But moving forward, this year, our big project in terms of restoration is taking one of the reaches, we call it the west branch of this watershed, the area between the food forest and the field house or the lower loop Crystal Cove, where you can access the cove. This area has been deforested for over 100 years. It was grazed heavily for many of those years and was used for agriculture. It's got a ton of structures and garbage and fences and metal and various hazardous wastes as well, kind of strewn about it. And so we've already started at this, but this year we'll be removing all of that material that's dangerous or hazardous, and we'll be going through with heavy machinery and decompacting soil, creating areas for trees to grow once again, and creating small pocket wetlands, and also removing ditches so that the area isn't drained of all the water and the water can remain on the land longer. This is a huge project, and we're going to need many hands in terms of helping to remove the invasive species, to plant plants afterwards, to help install fencing, and to help remove the debris. And so if you'd like to be hands-on in your involvement, this is definitely an area where we'll need help. And we will have a restoration work party every Friday as soon as we're able to have volunteers again as well. Almost done here. We've been working for a couple of years on promoting water conservation in the community, as have many others, including our local trusts, local islands trusts, and the groundwater work that they're doing. Recently, we created this pamphlet in terms of how to harvest rainwater practically. You can find it in the hardware store. It's at the Galiano Trading Company. But we have a lot of information about water conservation on our website as well. And we've transformed the new office and program center at the Learning Center into a water conservation demonstration space. So there's rainwater catchment there. There is an active gray water system. There is a bioswale, so green infrastructure. And of course, the constructed wetland as well. So a place to see many very simple solutions, right? We didn't do the highly advanced, expensive, technical, complicated stuff. We did it simply, relatively cheaply. And so you can kind of get a sense for what this stuff looks like in case it's something you're interested in doing at home. Or you could pick up our pamphlet. It is narrated by Fergus the Fungus. Last thing, this is a unique thing that we're doing this year that is completely new for us, an aspect of climate action. It's called the One Island, One Earth Initiative. For those of you who are familiar with ecological footprints, it's one way of measuring our impact on the Earth relative to our land and marine bases. And so it's never been done for small islands in North America. This is the first sort of pilot of trying to get an ecological footprint for a small island community outside of Europe, as far as I can tell. And so Luis has been heading this up. We have a puppet mascot, Soul the Ecological Footprint, and many project partners, including the local trust committee and also Lalem Saratineo and the Gulf Islands Community Resource Center. But the important thing for you to know about this is that if you live on Galiano Island, we really need you to be involved in helping us collect data for this project. We have 4 very specific ways that we're asking for you to do this. And I have the link there to our webpage for it, which you can learn all about those ways. You can also email oneisland@galianoconservancy.ca and ask to be put on a list. We're going to be releasing all of this community survey information in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for it because it's going to be coming out and we want you to be involved. All right, I do not know if I stuck with 15 minutes, but thank you all very much for listening to me go through all of this stuff. It makes me kind of tired just thinking about all of it, but also very excited. So thank you for contributing to it, and thank you in advance for participating in this coming year. I'm very excited about the work that we're doing. I also believe I'm supposed to help share one more poll at this time. Is that right, Louisa?
Yes, I'll just launch it right now.
We're already starting to collect data from you guys.
So the question is, what part of the GCA's work is most near and dear to you? And it says that it's launched, so it should be coming up on people's screens now. And Adam, you can, we see your email. Perfect, thanks. So if we're having a bit of technical difficulties in sharing the results back with you, but if on your end, if you can't see the results, we'll get them back to you later next week.
That sounds great. That's a good spread. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And for those of you I haven't met yet, I look forward to meeting you in the future. I'm going to pass it over to Sedana now, our agriculture coordinator. I believe she is out in the field. Is that right?
Wouldn't we, Bob? Oh, Fergus, they're what keeps us going, you know? I may just be a banana slug, but I love to educate. And without you donors, I'd just be slugging around all day. But we've got something real special for you today. What do we got, Bob? Tell them, it's so exciting I can hardly hold it in! We're gonna go and see someone very exciting. Let's go see. Hey, Sedana, what you up to?
Hey, Bob, nice to see you.
What are we doing today? What are our donors gonna learn about?
Well, today, for the Donor Appreciation Day, I'm so excited to be talking about nettle, which stinging nettle is an extremely abundant, generous, nutritious plant, and this time of year, it's just starting to poke through the snow.
Whoa, wait a minute, did you say nettles? I kind of thought we were gonna be something a little more delicious like miner's lettuce, or something crisp and juicy.
Miner's lettuce is delicious, but stinging nettle is especially good for things like nettle capita and nettle soup.
Ooh, nettle capita, now that's my kind of language. Where will we find this stinging nettle?
Well, if you want to find stinging nettle this time of year, it can be really helpful to look for last year's stalks. And so these dead stalks sticking up, you can kind of see them coming through the snow. You'll see little patches of them, and they're dead, but you can see where the leaves used to grow and the seeds kind of came out of there, and they're a great indicator for the nettle.
Oh, so here we have it. Stinging nettle. Fabulous. But wait a minute. How are you going to harvest this, Sedana?
Well, before you harvest, you want to just make sure that you're harvesting from a really big patch. And we're actually pretty lucky on Galiano because nettle is extremely abundant here. But we're not the only ones that eat nettle. There's lots of butterflies, local butterflies, their larvae need the nettle as well. So you want to make sure that there's enough. And when you do harvest, you want to make sure that there isn't any on the underside of the leaves or anything like that. So
thank you so much, Sedana, for being so considerate for my babies. Thank you.
So the way to harvest nettle without getting stung, I mean, the easiest way is probably to get a nice thick pair of gloves.
But you're an expert, right? You don't need gloves, right, Sedana?
But if you don't have any gloves, there's also a couple of different ways to handle the nettle so that you don't get stung. Right, so I've got a nice vibrant nettle here, and I hold the top and then just snip under, a couple pairs like this.
What is this, a maple tree? Oh, I bet you it's going to be real tasty. Oh boy, oh, that last bite. Oh, all this snow. It's got all my joints so achy, I think my arthritis is really flaring up. Oh, Sedana, I see you over there. Do you have any remedies that might help me?
Oh, Beaver, I'm so sorry to hear about your aching joints.
Oh, yes.
I do have an idea. Okay, here we go. I want you to think about the wind blowing through the trees.
Oh, I feel it on my fur.
Waves lapping at the beach.
Oh, what do I... Oh my goodness. Wow, that stings. Oh, actually, wow, that feels so much better. I can turn my head left and right, and I can smack my tail. Oh my goodness, thank you, Sedana. Oh, I can go along chewing all of the branches. Thank you.
Happy maple eating. All right, well, that brings us to the time for us to bring this harvest down to Josh Blumenthal, who's going to make a delicious soup for all you wonderful volunteers and donors out there. Hope you have fun.
See you later, dudes.
Hi everyone. So as Sedana and Bob the Slug showed us, we have some first of the season stinging nettle here. We're going to be making a very simple spring dish, one of our personal favorites this time of year, stinging nettle soup. So as the base, we have some local heirloom potatoes, a sweet white onion, and a couple big piles of nettle here. So as Dan mentioned, when you're harvesting nettle and any wild product, you want to do it in a sustainable fashion, only taking 10% of what you see when you're picking. And there's not just us relying on these wild edibles for food. So yeah, to get started here, have our onion. We're just gonna, the big trick to this is to cook everything really quickly and evenly. So we're gonna start out by slicing the onion as thin as you possibly can. And this will add some sweetness and a bit of earthiness to the dish we're making. Again, very simple dish, 4 ingredients. We have onion, potato, nettles, and water. So starting out, slicing the onion as thin as you can. Put that in the bowl here. Move on to the potatoes. On the back stove here, you can see we've already got our pot heating up for cooking the soup and a big jug of boiling water to expedite the cooking of the ingredients in the pot. Again, same with the potato, we're going to slice it as thin as possible so it cooks quickly and evenly with the nettles. The nettles we have here have already been cleaned, and so they've been picked this morning by Sedana and then cleaned. Any debris, leaf litter that is growing in with them has been removed. And so we've got the potatoes, onions, and the nettle, which have already been picked and cleaned. So you can, at this young stage, you can just leave them in little cluches like this, and they'll cook quickly once they're in the pot of boiling water along with the potatoes and onions. Last potato here. And with the potato here is really acting as kind of a thickener and also to give the soup a little bit of substance, make it a bit more of a hearty dish. You can just do onion and straight nettle, but you'll have a bit more of a thin, more brothy type product in the end. All right, so we have our thinly sliced potatoes and onions. We're going to take a bit of neutral oil, in this case grapeseed. Got our pot on the back here. It's been warming up for quite a while. We're just going to heat up to high. Oil nice and hot. Then we'll start cooking with the onions. We want to sweat those in the pot just until they're translucent, at which point we'll add the potato. And everything's going to cook quite quickly here, nice and thin. Just give it a stir. We'll, at each point of each ingredient we add, we'll season it with a little bit of some sea salt that we make at the cafe. Add a little bit with the onions, let those cook out a bit, and then we'll add the potatoes as well. Again, this has just been cooking for 30 seconds, not very long here. Starting already to go a little bit translucent. You can see that. And then at this point, we can add the potato as well. Again, just stirring that all together. We'll let that all sweat in the oil. The pan here is over medium to high heat. You want to cook the ingredients as quickly as possible to maintain their flavor profile. If you let it kind of stew and cook slowly, it will take on almost like a chewy, mushy flavor. Whereas we're looking to really highlight the fresh green characteristics of the nettle. Looks like that a bit longer. Got the lid on there, so it's trapping all the moisture in there that's being released from the potatoes and onions. So they're cooking quickly, kind of simmering in their own natural juices. While that's cooking, we're just going to work on a bit of a garnish here. So Dana picked some beautiful wild herbs this morning. We have some sheep sorrel, peppercress, and wood sorrel, all occurring naturally here on Galiano. We also have some nodding onion shoots that are also another native plant species here. At this point in the season, they're a lot like chives. So we're just going to cut those up, and we're making kind of a little garnish salad for the soup here. Okay. We've got the nodding onion. We're just going to toss that in these wild herbs. At this point, we'll just check on our soup base here. Nicely. At this point, the potatoes and onions are basically almost getting to the point of being translucent. Now we can add our water, which is at a full boil. Adding the water when it's boiling fully again will just expedite the cooking of the ingredients, maintaining their natural flavors. We're just going to pour enough water to fully cover the potatoes and onions, and then I'll let that cook. Really just a couple minutes here until all the potatoes are soft and the onions are fully cooked. While that's going on, we'll just finish getting our garnish ready here. So to dress these wild herbs, we have a bit of olive oil that was grown, pressed, and produced on Salt Spring Island, one of our neighboring islands here. Just lightly dress that. It's quite potent, spicy, really fresh olive oil flavor. Put a little bit of the sea salt in with the salad here. Just give that a quick little toss. So that's all ready to go there. We'll just have a look now at our soup base. And so ideally, you want to wait until the potatoes and the onions are fully cooked, fully soft before adding the nettle, because the nettle will take 30 seconds to a minute to cook it at full boil. And with that, by cooking, the nettles won't overcook and lose their bright color and distinct flavor. Just get that a little bit longer. That time you can finish gathering all your nettles together. We have quite a big pile here. We'll probably add the rest of what's in the basket too. As the nettles, as soon as they hit the heat, they reduce in size quite a bit, and you need a fairly decent amount of them to get that flavor through in the final product. So just remove the lid. At this point, potatoes and onions are pretty much completely cooked. And add the nettles in. Give them a little push down into the boiling liquid. Stir. And again, you just want the nettles to be just covered in there. At this point, you can add a little bit more of the boiling water just to make sure that when we go to blend the soup, it's nice and the right consistency. Just add a few more of these nettles. And again, if you're not used to being stung by stinging nettles, I would recommend wearing gloves and avoid handling them at all possible. But if you're, I guess, used to handling them, it's not as big of a deal. We'll just again let that cook for another 30 seconds to a minute. We'll get our bowl ready here that we're going to serve the soup in. So we've got our little salad of wild herbs here. Just put that right in the middle. And there we go. Now, I'm going to have a very loud part of our presentation. I'm going to have to blend the soup, so just bear with me here for a second. Oh, really? Okay. So I've got the soup here. The nettles have all blended or have all sweated down in the mixture here. Then turn the heat off on the soup and we'll begin blending it here for nettles are completely cooked. Potatoes are all cooked. Onions nice and translucent. Let's load our blender up here. When blending with hot liquid, you never want to fill it more than about half full, as that can lead to hot liquid exploding at the top, which is definitely a hazard. So yeah, we'll just get this all blended up here. All right. And apologies for the noise. All right, at this point, the soup is completely blended. We're just going to check the flavor and seasoning before we finish blending and straining. Just needs a little bit more salt here, and we're also going to use a little bit of apple cider vinegar that we made with apples from Sunshine Farm here on the island. More sea salt, and then just a little bit of acidity to kind of brighten up the creamy, fresh flavor. Just give it another quick blend here. All right, so our finished soup here, it's a vibrant green color. We're just going to strain it through a fine mesh sieve just use our spatula here just to feed it through the strainer. So at this point, the soup is ready to go. If you're going to serve it immediately, you can do so at this point. If you're going to serve it later on in the day, I would suggest chilling it down as quickly as possible. That will set the chlorophyll in the soup and maintain this really vibrant green color. Finish straining it in case there's any little bits that didn't quite get blended. And then yeah, we'll just be pouring the soup around our little garnish salad here, and the acidity in the different types of sorrel and the pepperiness in the pepper cress will definitely add another element to the finished soup here. All right, almost done straining here. Just a little bit of solids left in the gut bottom here. That would be any woodier parts of the stalk of the nettles, which there isn't much at this time of year. It's always good to get any impurities out of the final product here. All right. Soup down there. All right, so our final step here is just to pour the soup into our bowl. It's a vibrant, very green, beautiful color. Salad kind of breaks apart in the soup. And we'll finish it with a little bit more of the local olive oil here and a bit more of the sea salt. There we go. It's our wild nettle soup with nettles grown at the Galiano Conservancy here. Oh.
Did you say soup's up?
I did, Bob.
Well, Josh, I'm really excited to try this nettle soup here, but you're a fine chef and connoisseur, I would say. Maybe a little finer dishes in life. What would you pair to this fine drink beverage, maybe?
Well, I mean, you being a slug, it might be a bit dangerous, but really light beer, maybe a saison, go well with this, or a cider, but you might have to stay away from those just to keep educating the children.
Oh, but I do love a fine cerveza. I bet you gardeners out there maybe tried the old deer in the garden trick. No, I always slug on by to have a sip of that cerveza. Well, thank you, Josh. This has been so fantastic. And I'm gonna go out and try and find myself a nice patch of nettles. Maybe make some soup, or maybe some nettle pita. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, there's our wild soup with all ingredients from the Great Galiano Conservancy and other farms on the island here.
Thanks, John. Thanks, donors, and everybody out there.
Everyone.
Hi, everyone. We're just going to pass you over to Chezzy here in just a minute. We're ahead of schedule. We're on a Zoom call that ends early.
Hi, everyone. I'm hoping people can see me. For some reason, I can't see you, but I'm hoping you can also see my screen. So for those I don't know, my name is Chezzy Miltner. I'm the Executive Director at the Galiano Conservancy. And before I start to talk about our next event, which is the speaker series these next 3 Sundays, I just wanted to thank Josh for taking the time to lead us through that great soup creation, and also thank the staff and Eric for making this happen. And of course, thank all of our volunteers and our donors and our various supporters for making it possible for us to do what we do throughout the year. And we're looking forward to a great 2021 with lots of new projects and lots of continuations projects, as Adam outlined. Coming out next week, if you can see my screen, we have a 3-part speaker series that will be running each of the next 3 Sundays, starting at 2 o'clock. And the first talk is focused on water conservation and rainwater harvesting. And the speaker will be Gord Baird of EcoSense. EcoSense is a sustainable home, a living laboratory of best practices. And it should be a very interesting talk. Galiano is an island that, as many of us know, it gets very dry in the summer. And so rainwater harvesting is a great strategy for making sure that we can keep our gardens vibrant and make sure that we're not straining the aquifers that we rely on through the dry season. So please tune in next week for a talk by Gord Baird that will be hosted by Adam, our restoration coordinator. The following Sunday, we're going to have a talk on eelgrass with the presenters being Nikki Wright, the longtime executive director of Sea Change Marine Conservation Society, based on Thetis, and Rob Underhill, the staff biologist and jack of all trades from Main Island Conservancy, who has been our collaborator doing eelgrass and kelp monitoring these past 2 summers. And they will both be talking about not only the importance of eelgrass habitats in the Salish Sea, but also presenting results on mapping efforts to date, including the work that we've been involved in. So that will be on March 7th, also at 2 o'clock. And then the following weekend, we have another talk, this one hosted by Sedena, our agriculture coordinator, and the speaker will be John Volpe, an associate professor at the University of Victoria, and the head of the Eco-Gastronomy Lab, or Eco-Gastronomy Research Group. And so they'll be talking about the interconnections of food production and ecological and social sustainability. So it should be a very novel talk, and so some applicable aspects for all of us that love food and also try and live sustainably. So please tune into those 3 talks. And again, thank you all for joining us today and taking part in the polls and listening in to this presentation. And hopefully we'll be able to host you for in-person events sometime soon. So we're going to get through this, and we'll have you back at the Millard Learning Center in person, hopefully for our next supporter appreciation event. And again, please tune in on Zoom again these next 3 weekends. Thank you all and enjoy your Sunday. Oh, and if you have any questions, please, I think some of us are still on. So if you have any questions about the presentation or about the upcoming speaker series or about the work that we have been doing and will be doing, I'd be happy to field those I can answer, and our other staff are on as well to field any questions. So if you do have questions or something you want to say, please feel free to take yourself off mute, and we can continue on with the discussion if anyone is interested.
Yeah, and I'm staying on as well, Chezzy.
Great, thank you, Eric.
Chezzy, I just wanted to comment, it's actually a comment for Adam, that there is a guy now from Saturna who's picking up metal and old derelict vehicles from Galiano, and he's doing it for free. So if you have a lot of metal down there, you might want to get in touch with him. His name is Dale McKinley, and there's a post
Dale
on
McKinley.
Dale
Okay.
McKinley.
And is he doing that on specific dates, or you just arrange it with him?
You arrange it with him, and he's his number's on Facebook right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jane. That's definitely very useful. I'm sure not only for us, but for some other islanders as well.
I'll just take another moment to thank everyone for joining. Thanks, Eric and Chezzy and Josh and Sedana and the education team. This is really fun event to plan. And I'm really happy that we ended a little bit early. That's always nice. And I know there's another event on the island today through the library that some of you will be attending shortly. So hopefully you have some time to stretch and have a cup of tea before that next event. But we all wish you a wonderful day and really hope to see everyone really soon at the Miller Learning Center for some in-person events like Chezzy said. I'm going to sign off, but it was wonderful to see everyone who attended, and thank you so much again for joining us.
I've got, this is Carolyn, I've got one quick announcement that I'd like to begin to spread the word on. Some of you may know that I've sold my place on Galiano, and the vacancy or the closing date is April 12th. So the month of March, I'm clearing out everything I own, and the vast majority of it will be disposed of, I hope, on the island, the things that have value, and the Conservancy is the beneficiary. So I'm working with Jennifer Stackhouse on creating a painless way for the Conservancy to assist me in finding new homes for furniture and useful contents. Quite a bit of artwork, both paintings and other items from island artisans. But I only have 700 square feet to live in now, and so I've got to find new homes for things. But I'm not leaving the Conservancy.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. It's been really fun starting the plans for this, so I look forward to working with you in March to help. And we're just also grateful for you donating this stuff in proceeds to go to the Conservancy. So, and it's so nice to see your face.
Well, it's good to see yours, and I'm going to be over on the island Saturday through Thursday morning, and begin to shovel things out. So I'm sure we'll meet up then. I've just got an email in process to you.
But if I could just say a few words, nice to see you, Carolyn.
Good to see you, Dawn.
It's been a while.
Oh my God.
Like 30 years or something.
Not quite so long, but almost.
Yeah, Carolyn and I and Barbara go back, well, several decades, back to even prior to Galiano Conservancy.
And it's 33 years for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been lovely to join all you folks, and don't know most of you, but yeah, we were there at the beginning, and who would have known prior to internet and computers that we would be doing this. Some of the actions that we did way back then when Mac Blow owned so much of the land was all done by telephone, and some of us were living off grid and having to phone from, you know, phones down the street, and yet we somehow saved Coon Bay and so many beautiful places. And I'm just so glad that the Conservancy continues to be such an incredibly, like I was in tears all day today, just watching all of you, and thank you for continuing on.
Well, I'm thinking about that span of time and looking ahead. I mean, it's hard to believe 30 years.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
So I want the proceeds of my estate sale, whatever we're going to call this, a house emptying. I want it to go to the endowment, because I think having a substantial endowment that I hope benefits from people's wills, people's bequests, is really the security for the future of stewardship of all that the Conservancy owns and stewards and contributes, to provide some security for the programs and the extraordinary contribution that so many people are making now within the community.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you so much,
Carolyn.
That's a great idea, and definitely growing the endowment fund is something we want to focus on this next decade. And so we really appreciate all you've done, and Dawn and everyone, all you've done in the past, and how you continue to support us going forward. And yes, building up the endowment fund is something that is definitely high on our agenda. So thank you for bringing that
And
up.
I just want to say that I live in the Comox Valley right now, and there are some amazing restoration projects happening in the Comox Valley. Some very, very exciting things. Keep in touch with the Comox Valley Land Trust, and spirit lives on all over the province.
Well, thank you for that, Don. I will mention that we will be working with, I'm not sure if Adam is still on. He can speak to this better than I can, but we will be working with, I think it's the wetland keepers in the fall, and they're going to be hosting events with us on Galiano, but also in either Comox or Courtenay. And so I'm assuming that we may be able to allow people to see what's going on both in Galiano and then also up in Comox at that fall event, which the dates are still to be announced, but I believe it will be in October for wetland restoration work. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they're doing up there as well. So thanks for being here.
Oh, it's amazing what we're doing here. It's totally amazing.
Right on. Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful afternoon.
Hey, Barbara.
Too.
Hey, Barbara.
What a reunion.
Nice to see you, Barbara.
You too, God, and Sheila and Carolyn and many old timers, as well as so many youngsters leading us forward.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, you know, succession is the challenge for every volunteer organization, and my God, what a wonderful sense of accomplishment just to look around the Zoom gallery.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that when at our youth climate strike walk that happened a while ago, us old timers were sitting in the sidelines kind of going, thank God. What did Wayne say? He said, I've been doing the day shift for so many years, and now I'm doing the night shift, and the youth have taken over the day shift. It was such a classic, wonderful comment, because the youth are just so inspiring these days. Yeah. Anyways, I just needed to say that because it was such a memorable moment when we watched almost 3,000 people in our community marching up the streets and shutting down the roads and doing, and it was totally youth oriented, totally youth driven. The only things the old folks that did was we were doing traffic control, and it was just so appropriate. No, it's great to see you, Carolyn.
Well, and you too, Don. And you're right. You know, I think that the pendulum has swung, and now there's a new generation that's a little bit like we were. You know, I mean, I see myself in the but I also see extraordinary courage that I never had. I mean, the world is a different place. Feminism has had a huge impact on activism more generally. And boy, do I ever see that. That's just a transformation. And there are other movements that have happened over the last 50 years that have a huge impact on the possibility of change and active citizenship.
Right on.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, everyone. Really, this is a really special way to end the call. Just having an open talk with you. And Carolyn, like I said, it's so nice. We've had so many conversations, and to see you face to face. We've been waiting for this day.
Yeah, great to see you, Carolyn.
Oh, I'm so sorry I screwed up the time. I had it marked in my calendar for 2 o'clock, and there we are. Just seeing that Josh wasn't what I'd planned. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I missed the presentation, Eric.
You're recording, Carolyn, because we did record the session, so you can check out Adam's presentation as well, just at a later date. Okay, everyone.
All right.
This is
Bye.
time. So we'll sign off.
Bye.
All the best. Thank you again for all your
Bye. Thank you.